Hi everyone, happy Monday. This week's productivity tip, I want to talk about working from home and how we can create a space whilst we're working from home that is in which we can be fully present with work, particularly when working from home with the kids about. But first, if you haven't met me yet, I'm Laura. I am your productivity and balance mentor for Managing Myself. I work with busy, professional working mums who want to be more productive with their time so that they feel more calm and more balanced overall. So let's get into today's topic. Working from home is hard, especially with kids about. Being able to be focused and dedicated to your work and to meet deadlines when there are constant interruptions from the children is really tricky. So today I just wanted to share 4 small tips with you to hopefully help you with continuing to work from home. I think the majority of us are continuing to at least have some work from home time at the moment whilst COVID continues. So hopefully this will be helpful. Firstly, I think the most important thing we can do when it comes to being productive and focusing on our work is to be prepared. And to be prepared, we need to have a plan. So I like to plan out the week on a Sunday evening and to look ahead for my calendar for the week ahead to see what kind of meetings I've got in and to really think about what I need to achieve for that week as far as my work is concerned, and to schedule that in, to physically schedule the work into my calendar so that I know what I'm working on and I know which slots in my calendar that's going to fit into. And I suggest if you have a partner as well, it's important to compare schedules with the both of you together so that you can see where the gaps are in terms of who's going to be keeping an eye on the children at any point in time, and you can come to some compromises together in terms of that. I think it's also important to, particularly at this time when there are children around, to not overschedule yourself. You know, it's not the same as being in the office and being able to have yourself in back-to-back meetings, because there will be times when the children need you, or you're distracted onto other things, even just momentarily. So it's important to not have huge long stretches of time when you're going to be back-to-back in meetings. And it's also important to recognise that if you are in and out of meetings, you've got less time to get other stuff done. So don't overcommit yourself in terms of what you think you can actually get done in the week if you have a lot of meetings going on. So that's the first thing. And I think also, whilst we're talking about planning, is also plan the week out for the children. So where are the blocks of time where you know that you're going to be busy and your partner's going to be busy, and therefore you need the children to be focused on something themselves independently that they're going to be happy doing on their own. So think about what those things are and schedule those in so that you know what you're providing to the children to do within those slots of time. So that's number 1, which is thinking about how to plan your week out. And what you can do is then every afternoon is to tweak your plan on a daily basis. So, what worked today and what didn't work, and how can you change that tomorrow in order to get the best from yourself and also from the children in terms of letting you get on with your work. So that's planning. Number 2 is to schedule time for fun, and I mean fun with the children. And if you can set aside specific time in your calendar for being present with the children for small snatches of time, whenever that may be, and you can manage your children's expectations around when those times are, and for this period of time, I need you to be really focused on whatever you're playing with and to not interrupt me, but at this particular time, that's going to be when we're going to do some stuff together and we're going to have some, I can be involved and I can look at your Lego that you've built or whatever it is. And I think if you can manage your children's expectations in that way, life becomes a lot easier. Another tip that was shared by somebody in the private Facebook group called the Work Life Success Community was really interesting, and she has set up a Trello board for her youngest child. This was something that she set up for homeschooling purposes, and the majority of the links that she set up within the Trello board are to educational resources online. But you could do this for educational stuff. You could do it for fun stuff. You can do it just to suggest activities for the child rather than actually linking out to online resources. But it's just to have a sort of a centralised database, I suppose, of the different activities that your child might like to choose from independently, so that they're not constantly, "Mummy, I'm bored, what can I do? I've got nothing to do." So I thought that was a really lovely solution to that problem of providing your child with lots of different options that they can choose from. Another thing that you might like to try is to have a summer bucket list for fun activities for the children to do. And if they have a list of fun stuff that they know that they want to do, and you can schedule that into these specified blocks of time, it gives them something to look forward to, and therefore there's a reward for not interrupting during the day, because they know they're going to get their reward of the summer bucket list fun thing to do with you at lunchtime or in break times or at the end of the day. So that's tip number 2. So tip number 1 was to plan your time appropriately in advance, and tip number 2 is to actually physically schedule on your calendar time for fun with the kids. Tip number 3 is really about maybe reconsidering how you work. So there are various ways in which we might like to adapt the way that we normally go about working to fit around these unusual circumstances. So a couple of things that I've done from my life, just to give you some ideas, are to and not everybody likes this, but to get up early, to get up before the rest of the family, and to knock out 1 or 2 of your most important tasks of the day before anybody else is up. Now that does require, a total shift probably in how you live your life, in that in order to do that you're going to have to go to bed earlier in order to get the requisite amount of sleep. But I find that really, really works far better than staying up late to catch up on work. Because if I stay up late to catch up on work, there's no deadline associated with it, and I can find myself staying up later and later and later into the early hours of the morning, sort of not realising how inefficient I've become because I'm so tired. And then once I do get into bed, I'm then struggling to sleep because my brain's going crazy with all the stuff that I've been working on. So actually I find it much more productive to go to bed earlier, get some good quality sleep, wake up very early, and to spend the first hour of my day when I actually have the most energy working on the things that are most important to me. And then I can go into the day knowing that I've already done a good amount of important stuff that had to get done, and it's less worrisome if I'm getting interrupted all the time by the children. Another example of something that you might like to reconsider how you're working is something called the Pomodoro technique, which you may or may not have heard of. And this is all about sort of working in sprint cycles. So you work for 25 minutes, solid, focused, not distracted, and then you have a 5-minute break. And in that 5-minute break, you could check your emails, go to the bathroom, get a cup of tea, or do something really, really quick with the kids. And I find working in those short sprints of time really helps me to just focus and really achieve something significant within a short period of time, because I know that that's what I've committed to, that's the time, and I've got a timer, I've got a countdown, so you've got a natural deadline built in, encouraging you to finish a task quickly. And a third thing that you might like to consider for changing the way that you work is to consider batching similar tasks together. So this is setting aside a time when you're going to check emails, and all you're going to do within that Pomodoro sprint, for example, is check emails. It might be that you've got some calls to make. Well, batch all of those calls together and do those as one task in one chunk of time. It might be that you've got some meetings to prepare for. Do all of that in one go. So you're batching similar tasks together to make it more efficient in terms of making sure that you're not switching the context of what you're doing the whole time. So that's tip 3, is to consider how you're working. And my final tip for today is to have a think about how you can give your children the opportunity to troubleshoot within themselves, to solve their own problems without having to interrupt you and ask you to intervene the whole time. One of the ways that I've learned how to do this quite recently was a conversation with a friend where she started talking about the 4 Bs, and I'd never heard of this. What are the 4 Bs? So the 4 Bs are: I don't want to be interrupted unless one of the 4 Bs is happening. And the 4 Bs are: if somebody is barfing, if somebody is bleeding, something is burning, or something is broken. And in terms of broken, I mean a broken bone or a broken smashed glass on the floor, not my Lego house is broken. And as long as your children are above a certain age, they will understand the difference. But I think it's just giving children the the context within which they know these are the things I can interrupt mummy for, and if it's not one of those things, I need to sort it out myself. So if there's squabbling going on about this toy's mine, no, it's mine, I had it first, it's a very healthy thing for children to learn how to resolve those problems on their own. So I guess that's a nice side effect, that you're not getting interrupted and also they're learning how to resolve their own problems. So there you have it. Just to recap, the 4 things for today in terms of being able to really focus your attention when you're trying to work from home with kids around are to plan your week appropriately in advance, to schedule fun time on the calendar, to have a think about the way in which you work and maybe change some things around in terms of the way that you're working. And tip number 4 is the 4 Bs, and giving your children the resources to know when they are allowed to interrupt and when you expect them to be getting on with themselves independently. So next week I would like to talk to you about top tips for being able to switch off from work and to be fully focused with your family, particularly when you're working from home and it's difficult to separate the whole work-life balance conundrum. And finally, I just wanted to let you know that I've had a bit of a reorganisation on the website. So if you want to go to www.managingmyself.me/free, you will find I'm building up there a catalogue of free resources to help you out in terms of work-life balance. I hope you find that useful, and I'll speak with you next week.